Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Wealth Building Wednesday, where we answer your money questions with style and grace. To ask your question, go to buildingwealthtogether.com and click Ask JJ or leave a voicemail at 1-833-4-ASK-JJC. Before we get into the questions today, we've got a little teaching.
Well, no, we don't. It's not Wednesday, and we don't have a little teaching. I just forgot that particular intro goes to Wednesdays instead of every day. Oops. Okay. Well, I'm awesome and not perfect. So let me just make sure that we're good on the free conference call, because we do have a dial-in option. In fact, I'll see if I can put that banner up so that people have to drop off of Facebook, or if they just want to conserve their bandwidth, that they are able to ask questions that way. And while I'm finding that banner, this is a sign that I have too many. There we go. Okay, so that's the, oh, you know what? I should make that a one that goes across the bottom to make it easier. There we go. There we go. All right, so I discovered a problem with my anonymous questions and answers. Okay, so the first thing I discovered is that my phone, my voicemail that you can call and leave a question, was not allowing people to leave a question. So I had to fix that. And then I discovered that the Ask JJC anonymous form is like, you have to put in your name and you have to put in your phone number and you have to put in all these things. And so I mean, this is just one of those embarrassing things. It's like, from time to time, you got to test out your tech. You got to test out your systems. And somehow when I switched from the whatever we had to the Google form, well, it had all those things in it, and I never stopped to look. Oh, I know. We had a WordPress form, and then we will be going back to the blog. We absolutely will be going back to the blog. But at this point, we had switched to the Google because it puts it all in a spreadsheet, and the WordPress form was just not was not working for me. It was a lot of spam. And so and so the name is now optional, your email is now optional, your phone number is now optional, your address if you want me to mail you some stuff from time to time. I'm actually getting ready to mail out a little thing this week. All of that stuff is optional. The only thing that's required is your question. And then, am I allowed, if you provide any other information, can I add you to the mailing list? Can I text you? Can I call you to ask your question live on the show? Like, that's where I want to start getting to. We have a line where you can leave a message and just leave your message, either a testimonial or a question, and I can play it when we do the podcast. But the next level is going to be being able to have you come up live and ask your questions. So since we're not set up to do all of that just yet, please go to the form or drop any money questions you have in the chat, in the comment section. Or you can, if you are listening on the free conference call, I should probably bring up that dashboard so that I will know that you have a question, because right now I do believe the free conference call folks are in Q&A mode. Let me just see here. No, you're not. So I'm going to pause quickly. I'm going to pause briefly. I'm going to put it in Q&A mode. I want to thank you for being on today. It's one of those things where I forget sometimes to do the free conference call, and I don't want to forget it completely, because I personally have been very frustrated with everybody making this move to Zoom. So like all the mentoring calls and a lot of the tech calls and all these different calls, everybody wants to go on to Zoom now. And that's great. That's great, especially for tech calls where you want to show somebody how to do something. But me, I did a lot of my learning and still continue to do a lot of my learning while I'm driving. Y'all know I live out in rural Texas now, while I'm driving or while I'm walking. And it's it's just ridiculous to listen to replays when all you can do is stream, especially in the middle of rural Texas where the stream cuts off or you can't rewind or go back or do these different things. And it's just difficult. So I maintain on my classes the ability for you to download the MP3s. All right. And then that's also why I maintain the ability for you to dial in if you can't stay on Facebook or YouTube. All right, so I've got a bunch of disclaimers out of the way. What I'd like to do today, this is our first Thursday in April. I just briefly want to remind everybody about our new structure. It's our fourth month of doing it, so I think by now everybody's getting into a groove. But one thing I forgot was to plan for a fifth Thursday, which is what we had last month. So there was no Thursday night class last month. I wanted to get one together, and then we were doing a staff lunch with my husband, a staff dinner with my husband, and then I thought, you know what? It's not on the meetup calendar. It's not on the Building Wealth Together calendar. It's just a free night, a free Thursday night for me to be with my husband and his staff folks. So that's what happened last week. But I told him, I said, I really should fill that spot because I want to find something to use for that spot so we can keep consistency. And so I think the next time we have a fifth Thursday, I will probably either do a bonus teaching or bring in some guest speakers, or maybe y'all tell me what you would like. Perhaps we can do like a throwdown Thursday where we get somebody in to really debate. I mean, it's amazing to me. It's amazing. I'll get to your questions in just a second, but I want to share this with you. It's amazing to me how many times I go into somebody's platform and they want me to buy into their $10,000 program or their $20,000 program or their $50,000 program. I had somebody, y'all, who was trying to sell me into $100,000 program and had the nerve to browbeat me and try to talk about why I'm so lame to live debt free and I'm so lame to be religious and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting there like, you know what? I'm doing all right for myself. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not living in a palace. I don't have a private jet, but I'm doing all right for myself. And you aren't getting my money. Because even though it is a true statement, when you bring religion into your business, it will drop your business. I remember y'all have heard that story, right? Like I just knew when I opened up my financial planning company and I went from being volunteer, which I had done for 15 years. Dennis, I promise I'm gonna get to your question here in a minute. When I went from being financial planning for volunteer and I switched to being paid, I just knew I was going to go out to all the churches and every pastor was going to fly me out to their church and they were going to pay me for a day workshop. And we were going to get everybody in my church and all the other churches that are called by his name out of debt. And it was going to be a powerful thing for the kingdom. And I was going to get to make money, have fun, and bless God's people. Well, guess what? I still make money and I still have fun and I still bless God's people, but it is not through mostly the ministry. It's mostly through secular, and I'm looking for the day and I'm longing for the day because that is my ultimate purpose in life is equip God's people. And so I'm longing for the day that when I'm equipping God's people, it's actually teaching these financial concepts in his houses, right? In his temples and in his places of worship. That's what I'm really looking forward to. But at the moment, that's not. So I get that. I totally get that. But I'm gonna tell you something. If you try to get my money, don't try to make me look small in front of all your people because I have decisions to make. I have decisions to make. And you made it really, really easy for me to say, nope. Somebody else did that the other day. How did they do that? They made it really easy for me to just take them out the running. And I forget exactly what it was that they said or they did, but I had competing priorities and I was like, I just don't know which one to choose. And they did or said something that made me feel like I was just going to be tolerated, not celebrated. And look, y'all, I spent enough of my life being tolerated. I don't need to be tolerated. If you just gonna tolerate me, I can just go and do something else with my time, my treasure, my energy. Okay. So I was like, make that decision real easy for me. And I'm finding that doors have been closing as I've been praying about being focused in my business and being focused with my family. I find that doors have been closing and decisions have been making easier and easier about what not to do. So, all right. That said, the schedule that we're going to have every first Thursday is still Fireside Chat. I'm going to answer your questions as best as I can. And I'm not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. I was laughing with somebody else the other day because I'll know I'm on a crypto kick right now. And a couple years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, somebody asked me about NFTs. Well, this is so bad. Well, NFT has a lot of different meanings, right? NFT has a lot of different meanings in the financial space. And so, right now, when you say NFT, everybody's thinking about non-fungible tokens, right? And so that's the biggest thing that everybody's talking about. But 5 years ago, when you said NFT, it was equivalent to day trading. So I started answering this question to the best of my ability about day trading. And I don't think day trading doesn't work. I think it works if you work it, but I think most people don't know how to work it, right? And it's a lot of work. So I can imagine that person was like, she doesn't know what she's talking about, right? And they probably just moved on because it was new and I didn't know. So I'm not perfect, but I tell you what, I'm going to give you a good answer to the best of my ability. I'm going to do the best I can to research things that I don't know about. And I can guarantee you this. Somebody said the other day, you can't guarantee that people are going to do this or that and the other. I can guarantee you this. If you live and you structure your life according to the principles that I'm setting forward, you will retire with dignity. You will own your own home. You will have a legacy to pass on to the next generation. You will have those things. And now you get hit by a bus tomorrow. Okay, I can't predict that. I can't promise that, right? But if you follow these principles work. All right. Okay, so first question out of the gate. Oh wait, no, I didn't finish talking about the things. So every first Thursday is Q&A. Every second Thursday, it's going to be our $1 Million Business Building. So we're going to look at tools and tips and tricks to help you build your business. So that's when we're going to be digging into things like coaching, podcasting, all those kinds of things that I taught as part of Building Wealth Together on Saturday mornings in the Pierre Bourdieu Mall. We're going to be teaching those things on every second Thursday. Then every third Thursday is back to being what it was when we first started Building Wealth Together 8 years ago, the Real Estate Thursday. So we're going to continue our lessons on Real Estate 101. Every fourth Thursday is our Empowered Entrepreneur lessons, and that's our personal growth program to help you elevate your life. As I elevate my life, you elevate your life. We all elevate our life. A rising tide lifts all boats, and everybody in our lives will be affected, hopefully infected, right? But everybody in our lives will be affected by us up-leveling. So, sometimes I get questions about, well, how can I make my husband do this? Or how can I make my wife do that? Or how can I make my kids do that? And I'm like, half the time we can't even make our own selves behave. So maybe instead of asking, how can we make these people do this, that, or the other, maybe we ought to look at how we can up-level our life, because the only person I can control is me. Now, I can enact some consequences, but at the end of the day, the only person I can control is me. And the only income I can control is mine. And the only abilities, thoughts, and presences that I can control are mine. So let's work on what we can control instead of stressing out about what we can't control. All right. I'm excited. So we're going to figure out what the fifth Thursday is going to be. And you know what? If fifth Thursday becomes take a break and go out to eat with your husband Thursdays, I'm really good with that. Okay. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. All right. Okay, so our first question out the gate here. This is lagging. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. First question out the gate. What is the best effective way to purchase a multifamily home for a group home or transitional housing? Would you suggest a commercial building and convert it into one? Okay, I am going to back up and see if maybe this banner is why I can't post that comment. There we go. All right, so we got this comment up, and it's a long one, so that's why I wanted to post it. This is a lot of things going on in one comment, okay? And I appreciate you being on, Dennis. I know that you've been supporting. I hope your poetry book that you just publishing is being a blessing to you, and I'm very excited to see your growth and that you're going to continue to grow. There's a lot going on in your question, so I'm going to take it bit by bit. All right. So when I hear the phrase, you may have to drop it in the comments just to clarify. But when I hear purchase a multifamily home for a group home or transitional housing, a group home and transitional housing has different meanings to different people. When I hear transitional housing, I'm looking at something like a homeless program that's transitioning people into daily living, or perhaps a rehabilitation program, or perhaps a veterans program where somebody hasn't been able to care for themselves and now they are going to occupy this home or a room in this home and learn how to pay rent and manage their money and do their groceries and learn how to cook for themselves and all those kinds of things. I mean, not that people don't know how to cook, but you know what I mean? Like learn how to be responsible for your things again and then move out. So that's what I think of when I think of transitional housing. When I think of group home, I think of that more like what my in-laws, my ex-in-laws do, which is People Helping People of North Carolina. They have group homes where people come in for occupational therapy. It used to be, actually, I take that back. I don't know that they do the group. I don't know if they call it group homes anymore because now it's 2 days to 6 weeks or something like that. It's been a while, but basically those residents live there while they're receiving their occupational therapy. And sometimes you can have a group home. Sometimes people mean group home, and what they really mean is a boarding room. So, like for example, a lot of you ever hear about this back in the day? Like the widows would have the boarders in their house. They'd have everybody would rent a different room. Well, they call that house hacking now. It's funny, we just slap a new name on stuff, but nothing's really new under the sun. So that could also be a group home. A group home could also be for like treatment or for homeless transition or things like that. But there's different things that those mean. So if you could clarify a little bit, that's great. If you can't get to where you can clarify, I'm just going to talk about some of these different options. Okay. So the overarching thing is purchasing a multifamily home. Well, the first thing you got to do is find one. Okay. And there's different ways to find multifamily homes. One of the ways that's been really popular amongst young, not young, but new investors is to find a larger, older home and then convert it into multifamily. Now, if you want to do something like that, you've got to be very careful to watch your zoning, which is why I'm a little curious about the second half of the question, because generally speaking, a commercial building is not going to be zoned for people to live in. Okay, so when you have a piece of land is going to have different kinds of zoning. And so if in this place that I'm in right now, they may have to start thinking about these things because everybody's got their home office thanks to COVID now, and people are running so many businesses out of the house. But where I live is zoned residential. And being military, I've lived all over the world, and in the United States, different jurisdictions have different rules. So if you have a rule, if you're like in Florida where they have the cottage industry rules, you can create things from your kitchen and sell them at the farmers market, and you slap that cottage industry sticker on there and you are covered, you are okay legally, right? But there are some places where I've lived where you cannot have a home-based business without applying through the county or the parish and actually being a legal business, okay? Because your property is not zoned for that. And when you go to apply, like when I was in Fairfax County, Virginia, and I applied for my little home-based business, there's certain restrictions on how many cars can come in, and you still got to follow all your HOA rules and things like that. And so when I hear commercial building, you've got land that's zoned for residential, like what most people live in and where my home office is. You've got land that's zoned industrial. So if you've got industrial land, you're not building houses there. You're not living people there. Now, in some places, you might get away with industrial being like with a hotel or something, but in other jurisdictions, a hotel would be a whole different zoning. Then you have mixed use and you have all of these different categories. It really depends on your jurisdiction. So if I JJ Conway, and I can't tell anybody else what to do, right? If I JJ Conway was going to create some kind of multi-family property, or if I was going to have a place where people rented out the rooms, I would go for a big property And then if I really wanted to do multifamily, I would splice that up into 2 or 3 separate residences, each with their own doors, each with their own firewall, and all of that stuff according to code. And then I would rent it out that way. Now, if I wanted to do a group or transitional home, depending again on the zoning of where I'm at and the legalities of doing such a thing, then that could be as simple as finding a large enough home and renting out the rooms. All right, so that's a fun question. I had bought a property at one point. My intention was actually going to be to house homeless female veterans there. I had done work with the what is their name, Final Salute, I think it was Final Salute. Whoever it is that is the charity benefit partner of the Ms. Veteran America organization. So I was a finalist for Ms. Veteran America a couple years ago, 2014 or something like that. And whatever organization they support, they put homeless female veterans in a transitional home. And that's a great topic to talk about while we're in April, the month of the military child, because a lot of women veterans have children, which makes them ineligible to go to the majority of shelters out there. Okay, so I'm not going to get all off on that, but I do think that it's interesting to note that I had bought this house. I had intended to use it for that same purpose. And everything that could go wrong went wrong. And I ended up renting it out to a family instead because it just wasn't going to work with the zoning and the rules and the regulations. And then y'all gonna laugh at this. In some places that you live, if you're gonna offer services to the homeless, you actually have to have a higher standard of living than some of us been living in. In fact, that happened when we were in George Air Force Base. They closed the base down and they wanted to give the base housing to these different networks to be used for homeless shelters. And the homeless shelter people, whoever they were, right, turned down the housing because as far as their inspection was concerned, it was substandard. And y'all, that was the best base housing I had ever lived in. I was a junior in high school, so we'd been living in base housing for quite a long time, for most of my life, and that was the best one I'd ever lived in, and it was judged substandard and unfit for the homeless to occupy. So that tells you something about the military. But I would not go after a commercial property for that purpose unless it's a commercial property that has been zoned like a hotel or something like that. Okay, because apartment is different from a hotel in some jurisdictions, not all, but in some, because especially like with Airbnb and things like that, they have different rules now, especially with transient living, and you're just going to have to find out. All right, I hope that's been helpful. Yes, I do believe that FHA is 3.5% down payment. Don't quote me on that. I'm not really a big fan of FHA loans. FHA loans, I think it is 3.5% that you have to put down. And VA loans, if you qualify for a VA loan, you don't have to put anything down. But let me tell you why I'm not a big fan of either the VA loan or the FHA loan. And this is going to make some people mad because I'm not saying don't get it, but I am saying don't get it if the only way you can buy a house is through qualifying for that program. Why would JJ Conway say that when she's such a big fan of home ownership? Well, also a big fan of you enjoying your life after you get into the house. And if you get a VA loan at 0% and you're barely scraping through what you need for the inspections and the moving costs and things like that, then when stuff goes wrong, and it always goes wrong, even with a VA inspected house, stuff goes wrong. You're not going to have the funds to repair it. You're not going to have the funds to replace the air conditioning. And people say, oh, well, the sellers are going to put a home warranty on it. Have you ever tried to deal with a home warranty on a big thing like that? I was in the heat for 3 weeks and I should have listened to my gut and went and bought me a little window unit, but I was trying to be obedient and save some money. All right. And so when it comes to these loans, like even the FHA loan, 3.5%, if I'm not saying don't get a loan, but But don't get a loan if all you got saved up is 3.5%. Because what that's really saying is you actually don't have enough money to be a homeowner. You got to have a bigger savings. You got to have your 6 month savings account. You got to be out of debt. And then you got to have a savings for that down payment, at least 10%. Now, if you're a first time home buyer and there's all these set asides and all this extra money that comes for getting that FHA loan, or you're out rural where you qualify for agricultural kickbacks and things like that, take the money. But have something in the bank for when you have that first big storm and you discover that USAA and State Farm and a lot of these big companies, your deductible before they'll repair anything on your house is 2% of the purchase price of your house. So you got you a $200,000 house. Do you have 2% of that laying around for you to pay when the storm comes? Man, I was so thankful. I'm so thankful with the company that we went to. I don't even remember their name now, because the people that sold it to us, they acted a fool. So we cut ties with that company. But our deductible was only $1,000. And then the amazing contractor that we had, oh my goodness, I can't even remember his company name. I feel so horrible because I'm live. I would have looked it up. I think it's WeatherTech, but he also runs Patriot Mortgage there in Bossier City. I mean, amazing, amazing, amazing guy. He worked with us on that. And so, you know, that was affordable. But for that house, if we'd had a State Farm, or if we'd had USAA insurance, it would have been $5,000 deductible. Well, do you have $5,000? If you're trying to get into $100,000 FHA loan, FHA house, and you've only got 3,500 saved up, and it was just, that's every dime you could scrape together plus gifts from your family. Well, when something goes wrong, you're not gonna have anything. And then it's going to set you back, and it could set you back into debt. And you're like, oh, well, it's okay, we'll just pay it off. But that's what everybody says. And then people don't pay it off. And don't even get me started. And I know I got several friends who've been posting about their rent homes, and they're so excited about being landlords now. And I'm just like, well, that's all well and good, but if you don't own that property free and clear, the first time your renter tears up the house, what are you going to do? Or here's what happens a lot of times. You got this house, you got this rent home that you're renting out, and you take a bad tenant because you can't afford to miss a mortgage payment. You can't afford for there not to be somebody in there, so you just take whoever you can get. And one of the blessings of being able to have paid off properties is you can wait for the right tenant. All right. All right, all right. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go and try to answer some of the questions that have been sent in. I see that there's more comments in there, but the problem is it's not letting me scroll down. It's not letting me scroll down to be able to see all them. Okay. So hopefully y'all can still hear me, first of all. But what I'll do is I'll start answering these questions that I have in the spreadsheet, and then I'll come back to these comments. All right. So first question out the gate is, how do I find my ideal clients on a budget? Oh, I love this. I love this question that has been submitted. Because when we start in business, there's this myth of business. There's this myth of business that it takes money to make money, and in order to really make it big, you've got to spend a lot of money on marketing, a lot of money. You got to do a real big shock and awe in the marketplace, and so we're encouraged to take these loans, and we take these big loans, and we make a big splash, and we hire some people because we got the loan to pay them, and we buy some inventory because we've got the money to buy it, and we just blitz the market, and the money's going to start rolling in, and something's going to catch fire, and now we are going to be wealthy, and we're going to pay off all the loans, and we're going to just have the money rolling in, rolling in, rolling in, rolling in. Does that work from time to time? Sure it does. There are people out there who had an idea, they executed, and things just kept rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. But guess what happens more often? They're the people that come to me and my fellow financial coaches who they had this business and that failed, and had that business and it failed, or they did this and they did this and they did all the things right, but they didn't do the basics. And the basics can be done with very little money. And one of those basics is finding your ideal client. Now this is something that can take some soul searching. This is something that can also take some trial and error. Like for me, when I first started out, I told you all earlier that when I first started out, my goal was to go into all the churches. Like my whole website was all about Holy Ghost fire and fire baptized and saved and sanctified, and we gonna build up the kingdom of God together by getting wealthy and dumping debt and building wealth and being good stewards of what God's given us. And I still really wholeheartedly believe like that's who my heart sings to help, right? However, however, when that didn't pan out, I said, okay, who else is near and dear to my heart? Well, I was a single military mom for a number of years. And guess what? It's hard to be a single military mom. So I'm going to go after single moms. Now, there is a blogger out there, Wealthy Single Mommy, I think is the name of her blog, and she does very, very well. And she caters to people that either are wealthy or want to be wealthy, right? She puts the delineator out there because guess what? Most people that try to cater or minister to or coach or make a business off of single moms, generally speaking, they're not going to get very far. Why? Because a lot of single moms are broke. They're struggling. They got 2 or 3 jobs and they can barely make ends meet with what they've got. You know what I mean? And so sometimes we have to look at the situation and say, okay, the people that I most want to help, they are not my ideal client. So I have to make some decisions. And the decision I made was I was going to continue to support military single mom with my militarysinglemoms.org with my time and my money and my talent, but I was not going to make that a business. And at first I actually wanted to make it a nonprofit because a lot of people. Okay. So so when it comes to the ideal client, really what a lot of people say is if you don't know, or if you're like me and I tried this ideal client, didn't work out, tried that ideal client, didn't work out. One way to really pin down your ideal client is to think of who you were 5 to 10 years ago, and you're using your knowledge. Now, this person did not tell me what business they're in, so I don't know what business they're in, whether or not this is applying. But if you're coaching, speaking, writing, if you're trying to market to entrepreneurs, if you're trying to market to moms, if you're trying to market to a lot of different categories, then picking someone who is like you were 5 to 10 years ago and offering them the help that you would have liked, offering them the shortcuts, shortening their learning curve, how to start their business, how to do XYZ. That's who you market to. Well, when I did that, I thought about, okay, well, let's talk to the JJ Conway 10 years ago. Ooh, she was in 800 something thousand dollars of debt. That's who I want to help. And she was so brokered and broke that she did not pay for nothing. She went to the library, she bartered, she traded, she did everything she could to get out of that debt, but she was not paying nobody no money, none, nada. And so I realized, I can't go to the 10 years ago me because the 10 years ago me didn't have any money. And if I had, it wasn't giving it to you for information I could get free off the internet or in the library. So now let's talk about that for a second after I finish this comment on the ideal client. So these are some different ways that you can find your ideal client. There's this concept called ikigai, which is finding that intersection of something that you're really good at, something you're passionate about, something the world needs, and something that the world it needs and is willing to pay for. And when you can figure those things out, then that'll help suss out who your ideal client is. In my case, there's so many things that I am passionate about and that I really care about and that I want to be for other people, but they were not profitable. They were not things that the world would pay for, or they were things that I wasn't really good at. No, I have since learned that if the Lord wants me to be good at something, he has already fully resourced me to be good at it, whether he wants me to do it or whether he brings that person into my life. I understand that I once the idea, the calling, the thought has come to my heart, I have already been fully resourced to accomplish that thing. It's just a matter of gathering the resources and gathering the people or acquiring the skills, okay, whether they're my skills or somebody else's skills that are brought to my table, okay. um but back then I didn't know all that, but I can think of some endeavors that, whew, my goodness. So hopefully that gives you a little insight in finding your ideal client, okay. Now I do want to talk a little bit about starting business, and then we'll go to the next question. um the wait, go down. Okay. There we go. uh when we wait, what did I say I was going to come back to? Was it finding something that's ideal, or finding something that you're good at, finding something the world will pay you for? A lot of times we're really good at stuff, and it's really not something you can build a business on. So how do you know? Like, how do you know that what you have is going to resonate, right? Well, there's easy ways to test. And some of you may have heard this story before, but I like it because it's a very clear illustration. One day I put together this, what I thought was an amazing infographic about, how to manage your money. Maybe it was the income tax return or your COVID, whatever. And it was this infographic. Like, if you've got a financial emergency, here's what you do. If you've got enough money, but you could do better, here's what you do. If you've got plenty of funds and that's not your issue, you just really want to know how to have more impact and give responsibility more responsibly, here's what you do, right? I thought it was amazing, y'all. And I put that thing out there on Facebook, and I got all kinds of likes and, yeah, girl, and oh, this is good. Great job. Congratulations. Like, people were giving me all the accolades. I was all in the fields. I was so excited until I noticed a curious thing. Nobody was forwarding my stuff. So everybody was lifting me up. They were fluffing up my little ego. They were making me feel good about myself, but nobody thought it was good enough to forward onto their page. And I see some of the stuff that people forward on their pages, y'all. Most of us playing around on Facebook or Instagram, we got a pretty low bar of what we will forward on our pages. So come on now, if it's even slightly entertaining, share. But nobody was sharing this. And I said, oh, I have just tested a concept and it has failed. And so I had to tweak things. And what I discovered is I'm really not good at making infographics because I like to put a lot of info. Like, I put the info in infographic, right? And so what I needed to learn to do is work with somebody who puts the graphic in infographic and really tells the story with the pictures instead of me trying to put all the words, okay? So those are the kinds of things that you can do, is you can test it out. One of my favorite ways to test out whether or not you are resonating with ideal clients is to do little videos, a minute here, 2 minutes there, 3 minutes there, Facebook Live, or you can make them on your phone and upload them into YouTube as a YouTube premiere. And once you've got a little audience going, you can use the stats to help you see, okay, this resonates and this doesn't. Now, I will say we do have to be careful not to get all off in the deep end about those kinds of things, because, sometimes when we see that, oh, people like this, I'm going to do more of that. And then we just go off into this rabbit trail. And the next thing we know, we're nowhere near aligned with the values that we said, or the area of expertise, or the area of passion that we said we want to serve it. I'll give you an example in my life. When I had the cubby, no, this is even before then. This is when I had little man. So this was 16 or so years ago. I had a blog, Faith, Family, and Finance, or something like that. And Google had just introduced this thing where you could sign up for your name or whatever keyword you wanted, and it would send you alerts whenever somebody posted about that thing, right? And so what I did, I know they have a way to do it now that's a little more sophisticated than this, but I put my name in there, and I put my blog in there, and I put certain things. And I noticed that the ones that were getting forwarded the most were the blog posts that were talking about me breastfeeding. So of course, I'm an aspiring blogger. I'm realizing I have this child. I'm thinking maybe I don't want to retire from the military and spend another 20, another 15 years of my life. Maybe I want to get out and be a mom or something. And so I'm looking for other streams of income, right? So the next thing you know, I start making all these posts about breastfeeding. Well, breastfeeding is great, and I really do believe it gave both of my boys a healthy foundation. And I'm very I don't regret for one moment the times and the struggles that I had to be able to pump both 17 years ago, 16 years ago, yeah, back when it wasn't cool. And when I would go on TDY and I would put my stuff in the hotel freezer, and then I would ship the milk home, or I would take it home. One time, one time I think I was TDY for like 3 weeks or something. It was a training class. I literally bought another suitcase. So I brought this suitcase of frozen milk. And let me tell you something. I checked the other one. And so I know 9/11 had happened, but I think because it was breast milk, they allowed me to do it, right? Like I think you're not supposed to bring that much liquid on. But I literally had a suitcase that was filled of frozen milk because I was bringing it home. So that's great. And I believe it does feed into finances because you're giving your kids better health. It's cheaper. 9 times out of 10, it's more efficient for everybody, right? So there's a lot of financial play there, but that's not my lane. That's not my lane. And even like with parenting, I'm really on a parenting thing lately this year. I'm really been talking a lot about the next generation, but that's not my lane. Okay. So we want to be careful not to get thrown off to the side. You know, like one of the things that I do that I do on my YouTube channel is I do little videos of when we're renovating. Now I haven't been renovating anything in the last year or two because I'm establishing my new life here in Texas. But before then, you've got my highest watched video is still me replacing the lamps and the battery in the fire alarm safety lights that pop on when all the power goes off. And so you have the frog lamps that come on. And if you go in a commercial building, they have to have certain number per room and certain number per a number of people that the room is zoned for, right? And so you'll see them now. You look up and it has the exit sign, and you might have the lights on, and it's a battery in there. And it's a very, very special way that you have to do it. And so that is my highest watched video on YouTube. I think my second highest watched video on YouTube is one about how to store the breast milk. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Keep the views coming. But I'm not going to change my whole business focus to just focus on those things. Now, when I'm out and about, I see something cool, or if we're renovating a property and here's something I want to just make a quick video on, yes, but don't sell your soul just to get a buck. All right? Because in the long run, it's not worth it. Okay. All right. Another question here. Let's see. This is so slow. Is this person asks about living below their means when they can barely make it. And my heart really, let me check the comments that we have here. Okay. All right. It looks like I've answered all of your questions, Dennis. Um, I would not use a mansion for integrating with homeless veterans. First of all, uh, ain't nobody in your neighborhood going to let you do that. They're going to find a way to run you out of there. That's a whole nother discussion, though. So this other person has written in, they need help living below their means. And I have seen this summer, I really saw some serious poverty when we were passing through one of the reservations. They had just opened up from COVID, and we took some time to visit some touristy kind of sites. But in visiting touristy kinds of sites, I had an opportunity to really talk with a lot of the vendors who were there. And the vendors who were there fared a lot better than many of their families and friends. And so just having these conversations and understanding that there's some people in our country that really, really have nothing. I don't think most people who struggle to live beneath their means really have nothing. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm not saying that to be ornery, but I remember coaching somebody who made $400 a month and had a very full life. I've coached multiple people who are on disability, so they're making like 750, 740 a month or whatever it is, and that's all they're making. And I can work with them to live below their means so they can save up a little something for a rainy day, or so they can have retirement with dignity, so they can stay in their own home. You know what I mean? So I'm like, very few people who ask me these kinds of questions are living on less than $400 a month. There are people who are living on less than that, and that's a different conversation. That's a different set of survival and skill sets. You're generally not living on your own in those situations, right? You're rooming and you're combining and you're doing some of these things to stretch your dollars. Most of us, if we'll be honest with ourselves, we fritter away what we've been given. We fritter away money. And I know my big one is frittering away time, right? But time is like money. And really, the more I get into coaching, and the more my business grows, and the more my family grows, and the more I grow, the more I realize that these principles, they're the same across all boundaries. How many times do we fritter away calories and we want to get our health back together, but we're frittering away our calorie allotment for the day on things that are not nutritious, on things that just leave us empty, on things that leave us wanting more? How many of us are frittering away our income on clothing that is still hanging in the closet with tags attached? How many of us are frittering away our money on food that, fast food that's not helping us? And although I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm going to go to Cane's in a heartbeat. I'm going to go to get a shake sometime here or there, but how many of us are frittering away our money, our time, our energy, our calories, our strength? And so when it comes to living beneath our means, no one likes to hear this. And I certainly don't like to do it, because now that I'm not in $800,000 of debt, I know that I'm a very impulsive shopping person. I never thought I was, because I always had nothing. And when you got nothing, it's really easy to be disciplined with money because you got nothing. Like when you can't even get a Kmart credit card, well, you can't run up debt because won't nobody give you any more to run it up. You know what I mean? And so then I found that, I thought I was this nerd who just really wanted to be all in the spreadsheets and just track everything to the last penny. Well, that's what I was doing when I was 800 something $1,000 of debt. And guess what? As soon as I wasn't in that much debt anymore, woo! I have to force myself to look at my money. I have to force myself to keep track of things. And I put stuff, I'm the queen of putting stuff in accounts, y'all. I got the car account, I got this account, I got that account, I got that account. I'm gonna put it in this account, and I'm gonna go into my USAA app, and I'm gonna say hide account, hide account, hide account. So I'm not looking at that money every day, because otherwise, you know what? Y'all better than me. I know you'd be more disciplined. Me, I would spend it. I'd be like, I'll make that up next month. Yeah, because I just know my personality. I just know me, and you have to work your finances around your personality, okay? But living below your means, if you're finding that it's really, really hard, then one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do is to do what I call a reverse budget. Do one for last month and the one for the month before. Take all the money you spent, whether it was on a credit card, in your bank account, if it was cash under the table or gifts that people gave you that you spent, like gift cards and stuff. Put all of that into a spreadsheet with some categories so that you can see where your money is really going. And then you will discover some things. Like I remember the time when a fellow financial coach, she needed hours. So she said, please just let me help you. I'm like, I'm fine, I'm fine. And unlike most divorced moms, when I got divorced, the person who was spending all my money was no longer there. So my quality of life, income wise, went up. I still had $800,000 of debt. So my income didn't go as far as I needed it to go, right? Like that's a lot of debt. I had to make a lot of phone calls. Like, I can't pay this bill. I can't pay that bill. I can't pay this month. I can't pay that month, right? Like I had to make a lot of that. But my day to day living immediately increased because now somebody wasn't spending my money without my, as soon as that gets into the account. So for me, I didn't think I needed to sit down with somebody, but I sat down with her, and just to be nice, just to help a friend. Sometimes we just help a friend. And she's like, "You've been spending $500 a month online buying clothes." I'm like, "Yes, I have, and I have been loving it." Because I had got all those years shopping in thrift stores and stuff. And she's like, "You're never going to get out of debt." I'm like, "That's not my debt anyway. That's his debt. I'm not worried." And so truth in advertising, those of you who haven't heard this yet, I could have been out of all that debt a lot faster if I would have taken ownership of all the debt instead of complaining that I don't care what the divorce decree says. That's his problem. That's his debt, and it's not my fault. And I'm not gonna. It's not. I'm not. I don't. I'm not gonna ruin my life to pay that off. Like I think I had about a year of sulking. Maybe 2 years. I think I had about 2 years of spending and sulking. Like I paid off all the consumer debt. I paid off all the stuff that he ran up because I should have closed that credit card when I first paid it off. I should have just closed it, and I didn't. And he got his name on it, and he ran it up, and that's my fault. I'm gonna pay it off. So that first 120,000, I worked hard that first 2 years, and I paid that off. But after that, ooh, I was let me tell you, I was shopping like a boss because I had just felt so deprived and so entitled. And then I felt entitled. Okay. So anyway, living below your means, it also comes from trusting that that God is providing for you. And when I said earlier that I really believe I've been fully resourced to accomplish everything that God has called me to do, I believe that. I believe that if he puts something on my heart and I don't know how to do it, I'm not going to stress about how to do it because I know that he's going to send me to somebody, or if there's a big need and it's going to need all this money, I'm not worried about that need. As long as I know that it's something I'm called to do, I know that the need will be met. Either I will make the money or somebody with the money will have it in their hands to give to me at the appointed time. Like that's a walk of faith. And they say faith is the substance. Isn't that what the scripture says? Faith is the substance of things hoped for. It's the evidence of things not seen. And when we have faith that the Lord is providing for us, that if this month I only have $1,000, then because I trust him and because I trust his word, then that's all I'm spending. And that's not how most of us live. Even those of us who say we trust the Lord, that's not how most of us live. Most of us live according to the here and now and how we feel. We don't live according to our purpose. We don't live according to the long-term calling and the strategic calling. And so I'm going to encourage you today, do that look back, see where your money's going, and make the decision to live for your future instead of today. If you'll make the decision to live for your future, it will help you see where in that budget things need to be cut. Now, there are people who might say, "Well, I can't cut anything else. I have this obligation and that obligation." Well, maybe you can cut some obligations. Maybe you can find ways to raise your income. I don't know which it is for you, but I know that it's possible. I know that it's possible because I've been there. And I know that it's possible because there's thousands of people that I've worked with over the last 8 years, over the last 23 years that I've been doing it as a volunteer, that have taken that step. But the doors don't open until you make the commitment. See, when you make the commitment to your future, the doors open. The enemy challenges you in the beginning and things start going wrong. So you say, I'm going to live this debt-free lifestyle. I'm going to get out of debt. I'm going to get my savings together. I'm going to get my life together. And what's the first thing that happens? The car breaks down. Some kid puts a wall through your window and you can't figure out who it is to ask them to pay for it. Things happen, and it's to discourage you and to drag you back into bondage. But if you will stay the course, the most curious and wonderful thing happens. Doors begin to come open. things begin to come to you that you need. Groceries begin to show up on your doorstep. I know today we may not trust that like we did back in the day, but clothes for my son appeared, activities for my son. People who haven't heard this part of my story, who don't participate in the business side of what I do, and they only just knew me, or they just knew me through the ministry because I don't talk about this a lot behind the pulpit. They had no idea how broke I was back then because I had a very full life. Because when I made that commitment, and when you make that commitment, yeah, the trouble arose to test the commitment. But when you pass the test, then the doors open. The free stuff comes your way. The creditors begin to knock down your interest. They begin to knock down the fees. They begin to knock down the balances. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And all it requires is you to make a commitment to your future, to your children's future, to your calling, to you. Ooh, I hope you are being encouraged tonight. I'm encouraging my own self tonight. All right. Let's see. Here's an interesting one. All right, I think this is going to be our last one for today. Let me mark this down in here so that I can make sure I don't answer it again next week. Actually, it's funny I say that, but there's some of these questions that get repeated so often that I feel like sometimes I'm answering the same question over and over. So I may well answer another one like this, but this is an interesting one for me because what they want to do is they want to invest in vintage jewelry. Now, I don't know if they want to invest in a vintage jewelry business or if they want to buy the jewelry at estate sales and things like that. Okay. So it's I would probably need some more clarification. And please remember, as always, if you are not one of my paid clients, I really cannot give you specific financial advice. So the advice that I'm giving you in this context is very general advice. It applies to a wide range of people who have a question similar to yours. Okay, so without knowing the particulars of this, I will tell you the first thing that jumped out at me is that we are not investing in things that don't make us money. I'm not saying don't buy jewelry because jewelry is fun, right? And now that they make more of it without nickel, I can wear more of it. Now that I can wear more of it, I enjoy more of it, right? But rugs and jewelry and handbags and furs and cars, unless you are buying, acquiring, getting those items to be used in a business purpose that makes you money, they are not investments. They are purchases. They might be fun. They might increase the quality of your life, but they are not investments. And so I want to really challenge this phraseology of saving to invest, because what I hear a lot of times is make the investment in yourself, get that fur, make the investment in yourself. And it's funny because there was this wind that blew through all of my church ladies and ladies at work. It was like a wind that blew through. Everybody was buying furs and they were investing in furs. I'm like, unless you're on a movie set or you're walking down the runway on that thing and getting paid good money to do it, it is not an investment. And then everybody was buying new cars. It's like these winds come through, and you got to watch out when that wind blows through. You got to be like, where's that coming from? Because is that sent to bless me or to curse me? I'm gonna tell you right now, a car payment is cursing. It is not a blessing. Don't come up in my church, Abundance Church of the Living God International. Do not come up in my church testifying about your brand new car with your $1,000 car payment, because that is a cursing, not a blessing. Now, if you got the car with $1,000 a month car payment, and you've got the $70,000 or $90,000 or $120,000 in the bank to cover paying it off if you ever need to, okay, then you can testify. But no, you want me to celebrate with you that you about to be in bondage for the next 7 years? 7 years? You heard me right, 7 years. Like, I'm not gonna celebrate that. Because I'm gonna tell you, save up $3 or $4 or $5,000 and get you a hoopty. Save up another $3 or $4 or $5,000, trade that in for a better hoopty, and keep saving and trading. And you say, well, you know what? I've been there. I have been there. I have been there. But I have also been out of debt. And I have also not had a car note for what? 12 years? And actually the 4 or 5 years before that too. All right. So I'm sorry. You're not gonna convince me on that one. Okay. Um Car's nice, but it's not an investment, it's a purchase. Jewelry is nice, but it's not an investment, it is a purchase. Unless you are running a jewelry business where you are acquiring estate sales jewelry at low price and you are selling them at a higher price. Now we're talking business. But if you're going to pass this on to your son or daughter because these beautiful jewels are rare and they're going to be worth more money later on, well, they may well be. That might be a true statement, but it also might not be. And that's the thing that we have to understand. See that pocketbook is gorgeous. That's a bad bag. I love it. I love it. I love it. When we come to elect ladies, I know everybody's gonna be bringing their new purses. I got me some new ones too. I can't wait to show them off because I don't really feel comfortable wearing them out here with the cows and the prairie, right? So I'm looking forward to being in Hotlanta where I can wear my hats in my bags. And actually, now that I think about it, I may not bring them because then I'd have to pack luggage. Well, so we might have to rewind that, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like I like nice things just as much as anybody else, but I'm gonna tell you what I like even more. I like knowing that when my son has something that comes up, I don't have to stress about where's the money coming from. I like more that when I go on a trip and I want to buy this or that nice thing, I don't have to stress about how am I going to pay that bill when I get home because it's not going to be a bill when I get home because the money is in the bank. And when you learn to make investments in things that actually pay you money, then whether or not you go to work the next day or whether or not you actually feel like even getting out of bed, that is money in the bank. And that's what I want for you. All right, this has been fun. This has been fun. I am going to try to start keeping these to an hour. Um, if you have questions, please do send them in because these questions become part of the Wealth Building Wednesday podcasts. I know during the last 2 months, we really didn't do that because we had Black History Month and then we had Women's History Month. And I really tried to focus on Black history items during February and women's history items during March. But we will get back to the actual Q&A for April, May, June, go so on and so forth. So please, if you have questions, ask JJC. Let me go ahead and put that banner up again one more time before we close. I am going to check the free conference call and make sure that somebody hasn't been having their hand raised this whole time. Okay. And for those of you who are on, I'm so glad you guys are here. That's just when I see attendees plural, and it's not just me, I'm just like, oh, yay. All right. So, cause that's how I built my business. And then I switched to all the online stuff. And I felt like some people got left behind and I don't ever want anybody to be left behind. Okay. So you're driving or whatever. I don't see any hands raised though. So if you're wanting to raise a hand, you do *6 and then a 1, and then that pops up your hand in my dashboard, and then I can answer your question. Okay. But I don't see any questions. I don't see any hands raised in free conference call. Let me just check in here and see if we've got any more comments here. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And for everybody else who's watching, I want to thank you all for being here as part of Building Wealth Together. We've got some great new things coming down the pike for the rest of the year. And before I close, I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to the Global Speakers University folks. I hate that I'm not at the boot camp with you all today, but there are some things that I had to take care of. And I emailed Dr. Cheryl and I said, I had my ticket and my hotel booked way back in January. So you know I was serious about attending. But unfortunately, I'm here, and the Northeast jurisdictional meeting is also in that area. I was going to do both, and it looks like I'll be watching that via Zoom. So that's just how it goes sometimes. You know, you got to make the decisions. I already see the fruit of that decision in my boys. So I know I made the right decision. All right, y'all, that's all I've got for you today. Y'all take care and be blessed.